Second.
Benson. Burgess.
Here.
Chavez.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Myers. Williams.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to, actually, number 3, we're not going to amend the budget, so.
They're back.
Number 4.
They're back.
Mr. Mayor, we have some sort of contract. I need a motion to approve a $75,000 a year for Robert Fox.
Mr. Mayor, before we
No discussion, no second.
Motion on the floor, need a second.
I wanted to,
Need a second, all I need is a second.
second.
Okay, clerk call the roll.
I have questions.
Comments?
yes, Mr. Mayor, in light of what was talked about, I think the motion was to approve the salary for the chief box at $75,000. That is actually below the going estimated salary for a chief in the Sauk Village municipalities, even up north. I know for a fact that doing some research, the starting salary actually for a position of chief of police or chief of boxes of experience starts off with $90,000 to $120,000. So I think that the asking price of Hanks is an insult to Mr. Chief Fox. Therefore, I will vote no for that. I'm not going to vote yes for it. So the public will understand why my vote is no. I think his salary should be around 90 to 120 to keep it at level range with all the other police chiefs in the municipalities. He do qualify for it, he has experience for it, and it's not questioned yet. But yet, the board wants to do all they can to discourage the chief, but I don't think he's going to be discouraged in that manner. But nevertheless, it is foolish. Not to mention that the board didn't do anything to stop members of the police department from making over $43,000 a year.
Mr. Mayor, it's personnel. Personnel,
That's
Mr. Mayor.
not personal.
Personnel, we need to discuss the employees.
You got our order, trustee Hank, you got order. You have the opportunity to speak about it.
Discussing the employees, employees make this
call
personnel.
any name on it. You did not call anybody's name.
Employees.
So you got order.
That's us.
You got order.
Fine.
The board did
Not a
not-
word.
You have your opportunity to speak.
the board did not see it necessary to prevent any member of the police department from making $43,000+ a year in overtime only. Only. Thank you, President. So to sit here and say after the village manager had come up with several options on the monetary possibilities of paying the chief, which made it possible for him to get paid, and for them to just turn it down outright. Again, they're trying to run the village instead of letting the village manager do her job and the mayor do his job. Nevertheless, so the public would know it is ludicrous and don't make any sense, but my vote would be no for the $75,000. It should be $90,000 more. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, I'm sorry that I did act a little hastily. And I will, at this point, withdraw my second because in order to pay someone, we have to find out where the money's coming from. So to vote now to pay anyone anything and not know where the money's coming from, I think we need to, first of all, explain where the money's going to come from and then move forward with the payment of that particular salary, number one. Number two, you said, number 4 is a contract. This is not a contract. We're not approving a contract. We're approving the appointment and the direction that was given to us that we have to pay this appointment. And so that's what we're approving. We're approving to pay the appointment that was made by yourself to the certain individual to pay them for the services that they provided from the time that you appointed this person up until now and ongoing. So I would, at this point in time, I don't know if Trustee Hanks wants to withdraw, but I would like to, first of all, find out where we're going to get the money from, how we're going to get this, whatever it may be, then go from that point to go into pay a salary. So at this point, I'd like to withdraw my second because we have to find out, we're putting the horse before the cart. So I think I need to withdraw my second, and I don't know if Trustee Hanks will too, so we can at least explain or at least put down how we're going to pay this individual, then go from there.
Mr. Mayor, just so we're clear, that you want me to put the second motion on the floor first, up to how we're going to pay? All right, so Mr. Mayor, I withdraw my motion and ask for this to be called again. Second motion, which would be now the first. Making a motion, we direct the village manager to lay off 2 police officers immediately to pay for this position.
Mr. Mayor,
It's a motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Got a second?
I second.
We got a motion on the floor by trustee Hanks to lay out two police officers. We got a second on the floor by trustee Berger to lay out 2 police officers.
For this position that you appointed, Mr. Mayor.
To lay out 2 police officers.
Lay out 2 personnel in the police department.
Now we got a motion and a second. Now I need comments from the board.
Mr. Mayor, the village manager, the interim village manager, Mr. Dietrich, and the village manager, Ms. Turner, along with the finance director, Mohan, no one ever suggested that in order to pay the police chief, we have to lay off any police officers. Yet, the trustees, Hanks and trustee Williams, along with, trustee Burgess, along with Williams, is doing all they can to provide scare tactics to the public to make them think that, if we try to pay a chief his salary, we have to lay off officers, and we do not. We do not. It has been a proven fact by the village manager, interim, who stated that didn't have to be the case. We limit the amount of overtime that has been paid to these officers. In the last 3 years, we can pay 1,000 cops. Because the overtime is tremendous. It's over $300,000 almost a year. Now that's just plain, again, ludicrous. But yet this board seems not to care about the taxpayers and how the expenditure of their taxes is appropriated. Therefore, that's misappropriating funds once again. I'm not going to be afraid to say it. It's out there, it's in the minutes, speak for itself. So to use that scare tactics that they are trying to use is a total disrespect to our citizens. They should remove themselves from this board. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, just so that we make it very clear, the trustee has been making statements that are out of line and unfactual. I'm going to let the village residents realize that a memorandum from, at that time, interim village manager Richard Dietrich was presented to the village board on, November 14th, which talked about the budget, and it says very clear, it says the police budget includes only funding for current employees, while it's well known that several individuals have left employment, there is no funding to refill these vacant positions. As it currently stands, this includes 5 sergeants, 17 patrol officers, and 1 department secretary and a TCO assigned as records clerk. It goes on further. If you read the summary of the budget, it says at the very end, it says, during the coming year, I strongly encourage you to continue to pursue all opportunities to further reduce expenditures and increase revenues. Mr. Mayor, this is a position that you appointed that did not decrease expenditures, it increased. And we are not increasing revenues. We're having to find ways to do this. Mr. Mayor, the village board has come to you for at least the last 60 days or longer, asking you to provide a way to pay for this individual. You cannot pay for an individual saying you're going to cut overtime when in the last 3 months under your appointment, Chief Fox, overtime has skyrocketed. If we look at overtime for November for the record was $25,700 in overtime just for November. If you go back to November 2010, it was $11,800. Mr. Mayor, it has increased. In the month of December, it was $23,143 and some change. December of 2010, it was $11,008. Mr. Mayor, we can go forward into January. January is a little bit better. We only spent $18,500 in January. However, in January of 2011, we were at $14,600. So, Mr. Mayor, to say that we're going to pay for this individual by decreasing overtime, this individual has had the last 3 months to decrease overtime, and no overtime has been decreased. Mr. Mayor, again, this is a layoff for an individual that you believe solely in to put in this position. Once this individual proves that he can lower the overtime, and once he can bring revenues to Sauk Village Police Department, we can bring these individuals back. And that's important. And I think what's another thing for the residents to realize is this action is being taken during the winter. We know that crime is down a little bit during the winter, and we can hopefully see something within the next 2 or 3 months before we get to our summer months, and hopefully we can bring someone back. However, Mr. Mayor, the options that were before this village board were not tangible. They were not a solid base on where we could get the revenue to pay for this individual. So, Mr. Mayor, I think it needs to be very clear. I think the residents have to realize that this board up here is very concerned about the safety of the streets. However, Mr. Mayor, this board did not appoint this individual who was not budgeted for anywhere within the budget, Mr. Mayor. And it was also discussed during budget hearings that there was nowhere in the budget where we were to hire from the inside. I think the other thing to realize is during budget hearings, this board talked about if we were to hire within. Hiring within would have reduced overtime from two sergeants. That would be one sergeant that could move up to chief position, overtime from a second sergeant, which could move up to deputy chief, which would make an opportunity for this village to hopefully hire anywhere from 1 to 2 additional officers and still stay within the budget that this village board passed. So, Mr. Mayor, I think that everything needs to be very clear. And we talked about additional revenues coming in from taxes. Well, number one, we anticipate it. That means we don't have it. And number two, we know that we're already over budget, and that money will be used to pay for general fund, and that's where that money will go for general fund responsibilities. So, again, the trustee wants to spout off and have no actual facts. Tonight I present the facts. Tonight I present what is actually what we have. And again, to make these motions is a tough motion. However, we all know that this is before the courts, and we all know that this village has been directed by the courts to move forward, so we have to present something to the courts. So, again, this is something that our attorneys can take back to the courts. Rather than sitting back and doing nothing again, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, the village manager has given the board options on how the chief can be paid. She gave them her options that she had studied along with the finance director, talked to the attorney about it, and she said that, and also talked to the interim village manager. But once again, there was no discussion about laying off any officers. And when she proposed those suggestions to the board shot her down without even considering. They didn't want to consider it. It was what they wanted to do, and that was it. And that's a problem for the village because the village cannot move forward. The village manager was selected by this board, voted on by this board, and yet now they don't want to take her suggestion because it's not their way. Mr. Mayor, it seems like once again, I recall that in 2010, when the board did what they did and went and laid off or fired the finance director leave, and the village manager was removed illegally, they took it upon themselves to become finance directors, and none of them had any experience at all, causing a great deficit to the village. Was laying off people, and then they found out we got to bring them back now. Same thing they're doing again. This board is not working in the best interest of the village, of the taxpayers of this village. It's not working with the mayor or anyone else to bring some stability and to move this village forward. I ask again, gotta step down. I'm done, Mr. Mayor.
Her first suggestion was to reduce police overtime by $70,000. We've noticed that, for those of you guys who were part of the budgetary meetings, we did reduce overtime by 10%, and doing that, we made the surplus of our budget $15. So now we want to reduce another $70,000. The problem with that is in the first 3 months of our fiscal year, we've already spent $67,000. So even if we do that, if we reduce it by 70, that she proposes, we're only going to have $40,000 left for the other 10 months, not 9 months, the other 9 months of our budget. If we use $67,000 in the first 3, and we still have summer to look forward to, I'm not sure how we're going to reduce any type of overtime. So that one is one thing that the Board of Trustees discussed back there, and we decided that $70,000 is an actual. Let me just step back a little bit and say that with all the suggestions I'm going to read off, totaled $182,000. Mr. Fox wanted $90,000 with benefits and everything else. That totaled out to be about $110,000 or $115,000, I think. 118. Okay. So she suggested $182,000, so there would be a buffer for his entire $118,000 that we would have to pay for him being here. So the first 70 is gone. Okay. That's gone. Then another large one that she chose to bring up was the tax revenue anticipation of 3% higher. We're anticipating an increase in taxes of $75,000. Now that's great to anticipate that. We've got bills on the back table. We've got everything else. We're in the middle of contract negotiations. We've got police officers who still don't have their uniform allowance from God knows how long ago. We've got grievances. We've got lawyer fees and everything else. That increased tax amount, as Trustee Hanks stated multiple times, goes in the general fund. It can be used for multiple different things. And nobody that I know of runs their household on the anticipation. So we shouldn't run, you shouldn't want our village to run on the anticipation of getting 3% more. So okay, that $75,000 is gone. That leaves us with a total of $37,000. In that $37,000, we have another large chunk of $30,000, rearranging the dispatching unit. A certain individual, removing her from a position that she already holds as the police chief secretary, and putting her as manager over the dispatches. Keeping her full-time, that was my question, but Trustee Hanks and I both asked the same question in executive session. If her job is to reduce overtime, how is she going to do that? If somebody calls off, Trustee Hanks asked, is she going to step in and cover that shift? The answer was no, which is a good answer because those positions are unionized. You cannot have a non-union employee doing a union issue because if that individual would have stepped in, yes, sure, she would have saved overtime, but we would have gotten a grievance. We would have had to go to arbitration, it would have been a lawsuit, so either way we were going to be paying. So as Trustee Hanks brought out, that's not an actual savings. There's no hard facts. So that leaves a balance of all the things that she suggested, which are good suggestions, but they're not feasible for this village, a total of $7,000. If his salary, we still need $111,000, according to her estimation of his wanted salary and his benefits. We still need $111,000. I'm not in favor, I didn't vote for a single person who's been laid off. Not the first rounds that we did in public works, not code enforcement, and I'm damn sure I'm not in favor of the police department. But those other times that we laid people off, it was because it was the best for the village to deal with the budget, to work with the people we had. We didn't lay people off to bring people on. And that's what's happening now. We are laying 2 people off to bring someone on. And just to be clear, because I know it said before that if Halimas would have been chief, we would have found money for him. I just want everybody to know that I did ask the village manager to prepare a memo that had all 5 sergeants on it with their actual base pay, what they're supposed to get per hour, related to what they actually got and all the overtime they got, and what the savings would be if they were the police chief at $90,000. Because if you have a sergeant who was base pay at $70,000, but actually received $100,000 in overtime, and if you paid him $90,000 of base salary, salary, that'd be a $10,000 savings right there. That's way we wouldn't be paying out any money, we'd be saving $10,000. So our budget would not have a surplus of $15, it has a surplus of $10 and $15. But that was a suggestion that was brought to this board's attention, it was brought to the mayor's attention, the mayor did not want to deal with it. That's fine. We've moved on from that. We have an entirely new person. We're dealing with actual numbers here. I've asked for 3 different memos from the village manager, and unfortunately, since we're talking about it here, I'd like to add some more to that. Since we're talking about this individual, I would like to have a memo that discusses one of his suggestions about increasing funds is removing officers from the street and going down to the contractual minimal staffing, which is not what we staff at now. We staff above minimum staffing because of our crime rate, and he would like to drop the number of officers on the street. I'd like to know when he plans on starting to do that. I would also like a memo that discusses his background validation. Did he receive a background check in the village of Sauk Village? I know he stated before that that's not necessary, but I'd like to see whatever background checks he's had, plus I'd like our police department to run one as well. I'd also like a memo that, Linwood's right there. State Police, Linwood, Cook County, that's fine. As long as we have one done, and as long as we get validation that he's had one done prior. In that memo, I'd like to have a validation of all of his training and education that's listed on his memo. Make sure that he's certified, make sure that he can carry a weapon, make sure that he's met any type of certifications he needs to be a police officer and a police chief. I would also like to know when we will have the completed contract. I'd like to have that in our boxes by Friday for approval. I know, as discussed back there, we're not completing the contract because it hasn't been completed yet. Work is still to be done. So I'd like that in our boxes by Friday. And since I know the motion on the floor is for the dollar amount of $75,000, and that's something that okay, so after we do that, if there's a motion that has an actual dollar amount, I know it was discussed $75,000. It was also discussed that we didn't think that was going to be accepted. If in fact that whatever dollar amount is thrown out is not accepted, I'd like a memo to the board discussing that that amount was offered, conversation, what did happen, and it was not accepted.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, quickly, and this is just a factual thing, and everyone is saying that we did this, and this is not our job. Our job as trustees is to make sure that whatever money is spent stays within the budget, that we do not go out of the budget at any time during the year unless money comes in. So what we did, we tried to work, because I've been asking each and every week, even before we hired Chief Fox, where were we going to get the money? I'm sorry that it came down to this, but I didn't appoint him, no one on this board did. We asked him to try to work within or let us know where the money's coming from. But last year, you stated, and I was here, and I agreed with you at that time, that if we were to find money, we were to go back in the budget and rearrange things and transfer this and that, our first priority would be to bring back code enforcement on the streets so we can have accountability in the village. Because if you look around now, we got things happening, it's getting ready to become summertime. And last year we went through a whole summer with nothing happening, no code out there. We have a lot of investors here in this village. A lot of people coming here buying these homes, building them and things. There's nothing there to make sure that they're getting the proper documentation and they're doing the proper work. We have no one to follow up on that, no one trained to follow up on that. I thought that would be our first priority, would be to bring code back, because code would be it would pay for itself in the fines and things like that. And it also would enhance and bring the village back up to where the standards were for everyone that moved out here back in the day. They moved out here because they thought this village was being taken care of, and then we had a code here to make sure it was. But that didn't happen. But it's a shame that the first thing we did once the pen was put to paper to go out and get and find money, that we okay an appointment to a position that we could have saved money on at that particular time and still hire code. With this amount of money, we can bring 2 code people back. And hopefully, we can pay for that person in the summertime. By October, those positions will be paid for. And you know that, and we discussed that. So now, we're put to the fire. We have to find money because we have to pay, because the court order said we have to pay your appointment. Fine and dandy. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about having to pay whatever it is that has to pay because the court said we have to pay that money. But it's a shame that we have to do it this way. There's no other way of doing it. We can't do it on overtime. We can't do it on overtime. We can't do it on anticipated tax. I haven't heard anyone say that anticipated tax doesn't come in until September, October of this year. So that means we're all the way into our budget 10 months. That's when that anticipated tax from this levy was levied last year. It will come in this year. It's not going to come in on this payment right here that you just got your payment for. That went up because of what was brought in prior last year, not the tax levy. The tax levy was just enacted in December. You're not paying money on that tax levy now. You're paying money next October on the tax levy that will just happen in December. So we won't even get that money until October, November, whenever they decide to bring the taxes out of there and we get paid. Because yes, then again it's going to go up again because of the levy. So right now, in the meantime, our lien time is from April to October. That's when we always had our lien time, that we don't have any money coming in. Now, if he's able to bring money in at that time, Mr. Mayor, I'll be the first one to say, let's bring back personnel. But I thought last time we were going to bring back personnel, it would have been code enforcement. That's what we looked at. That's what I was hoping that we would do it. It's a shame that we're in negotiations now, and we are telling the people that we don't have money for their basic uniform allowance, but we got money to go out and find a chief. We got money to pay a chief. We got money to pay an outside employee. Nothing against the chief. The chief came on your appointment. So it's nothing against the chief. It has nothing to do with him. It has to do with economics. If we don't have the money, fine. It doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't matter, Mr. Mayor. We don't have it. It doesn't matter. We have to pay. We have to pay for this appointment. And the sooner we pay for this appointment, the least we have to keep on paying, because if we go any further, we've been advised it's going to cost us some more money in litigation, court fees, and everything else. So I'm trying to stop the bleeding. We're trying to stop the bleeding now and not go any further. Hopefully we can do this, and hopefully maybe all those recommendations that they have, maybe they'll step it up a little bit and maybe show that they're trying to save some money. Yes, bring the personnel back ASAP. But right now, I cannot see paying someone on a credit card, hoping that we get some money down the road. And if we don't get it, guess what? We have to go out and borrow, because now, if the payroll was not able to be paid, and you've been there when all we did was pay payroll, and we had to borrow from another fund to make that happen. I'm not looking to do that this time, knowing before we get started we're going to be in the hole.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Green, number 2, the citizen and lawyers are here. Trustee Burgess states that the position of the trustee Burgess stated that the position of the trustees is to make sure that the money stays in the budget, or that we stay within the budget. Well, I have a question for Mr. Trustee Burgess. Was $300,000 a year in overtime ever in the budget? I don't think so, Mr. Mayor. Also, the police chief just found out, it was brought to our attention that there had been officers getting paid for training, and when they were not trained. Officers paid for training, and they were never trained. A lot of money went out for that. Secondly, we have officers that are getting paid for a day of 24 hours of overtime. 24 hours of overtime in one day. How do you make 24 hours of overtime in one day? What are the officers doing? I would love to know. And one thing that's unheard of was the $43,000 that the member of the police department made in overtime alone. Was that in the budget? No, it was not, but you made sure that that was paid also. So if you saying that our job is to make sure that we work within the budget, you did not. You failed at your job. You are a failure at your job. We did not do that. We allowed the police department to rate the village, the monetary value, over 2 years and done nothing about it but allowed it. And now we still have legal fees, grievances, and outstanding litigation pending. There's going to be more money out. These trustees do not care about this village. Period. I'm done.
Mr. Mayor, we have time limit. We're going to hold on.
Before we vote, I have to make a statement. From day one, even before I was elected, I knew that we had some problem with us, some concern about what's going on in our police department. I can't understand, and it really frustrates me, that our trustees will sit here knowing fully well that $300,000 a year in overtime, that is not a concern of theirs. They got to be concerned about that. How can we continue to allow our police department to get this kind of overtime, taking money out of the taxpayer pocket, when this can be stopped? We have to stop it. We cannot continue to allow this police department to continue to go on and on doing whatever they want to do and bringing it on the back of the taxpayers. $300,000 in overtime. I don't understand why the taxpayer is not outraged on this. I don't understand that. I don't understand why an officer can get paid $40,000, some $30,000 in overtime. Not one of you here in any of your job will be allowed to get that kind of money in overtime and yet and still be off the clock on about 60 of those days. It's something wrong, and you should be outraged on that. I went to I brought this to the trustee's attention over a year ago, saying something got to be wrong with it. There's got to be either the scheduling got to be wrong, somebody has to do wrong. I went to the interim chief and asked him for the schedule, asked him for the time clock of the overtime. He refused it. I went to and forwarded the same information, and I will refuse to get it. And here we are, the first month or 2 months that this new chief can come in and discover some of these things that's wrong. Folks, we have to fix this. We got a problem here. And you can't tell me we can't save over $300,000 in overtime somewhere. We got to fix it. We cannot, and I will not allow us to get your money to get taken away from you just like that. We have to find ways, and I don't know where this may lead to. But when we start looking at people taking money for training, if this is wrong, we don't know where this may lead to. I don't know. I don't know where, if it's wrong.
What are you suggesting?
I'm not suggesting anything. I am saying that if we are finding out that it's patrollers or whoever, whether it be any department, If there's something going wrong, then yes, there's going to be some fixing going on.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a motion on the floor.
I understand that. I didn't interrupt you.
No, I'm not interrupting. I just thought I was talking to you.
I asked the village manager and the finance director.
Can you stop talking in here?
We have asked the finance director, the village manager, to come up with some way to pay the chief of police. The finance director presented those recommendations to the board. The board did not hear those recommendations. So what we are going to have to do now is go back to the drawing board, is paying your money again by paying legal fees. We continue to pay these legal fees because we're not listening to our attorney. Our attorney told this board, every member of this board gave them memo and said, you cannot win that lawsuit. You are going to spend the taxpayer money just frivolous. You're just not going to win that lawsuit. You're going to have to pay the chief his money. You're going to have to pay him. You're not going to win the lawsuit. They went ahead with this lawsuit, and you paying your money. You're paying your money for something that you didn't have to do. You paid the attorney that when I brought the lawsuit to stop this madness with this ordinance, when they know they were out of order with that, they paid my attorney. They paid the village attorney. They paid the chief attorney. All of these things, attorney that were imposed on you by this board. And it's time for let's stop this nonsense. Now here we go again to continue to pay legal fees because
I think that.
okay, that's my motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Motion is to lay off, pay the chief $75,000.
No, the motion is to direct the village manager to lay off police department personnel.
The board by trustee Hank and motion by trustee Bird to lay off police personnel, which the village mayor is not in favor of, when we could use the money that the finance director and the village manager recommend to the board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Benson.
Mr. Mayor, I would not put the village of Sauk Village citizens in jeopardy by laying off any.
But the mayor has.
We got
Vote.
Let her be on there.
Burgess.
Hey, let me get my vote first. Allow me to win my vote. Excuse me.
You said no.
I didn't say anything yet.
He said no.
Okay, let's go.
You said I would vote no.
Stop the roll again, please.
Benson.
No.
Burgess.
Yes.
Chavez.
Abstain.
Hanks.
Yes.
Myers.
Mr. Mayor, I don't want to say this.
Okay, you can't. We need to vote. And we went through the comments and questions first.
Attorney, I was an attorney.
Use your
In
mic.
fact, I was absent most of the meeting. I just picked up when you guys came out here. I really didn't hear the comments and stuff made in the meeting room. I really can't go on about comments. Thank you. Thank you. What are your suggestions? Vote there.
No.
Just,
I think it was just not a vote. Unfortunately, you can't
2 yeses and 2 abstentions. A no vote would make the mayor have to break the tie, right? No.
Yes. We have-
Yes, you have 2 no, you have 2
A
yeses.
no would make it no. A no would make it no. A no would make it no. You have 2 no's.
I have,
You have Burgess said yes, you had Benson, you had Burgess yes, you had Chavez abstention. You had Hanks say yes, you had Mayor abstention.
Okay, hold on, we have to wait to read them again.
we have 2 yeses, 2 abstentions, and a no.
I thought that's what I just
And you
said.
just said the abstentions goes with the majority. Right, the majority at this point is 2 yeses.
If I abstain, it would go with 2 yeses. If I said no, you have 2 no's, 2 yeses, and 2 abstentions. So where would the abstentions go? The mayor would have to break the tie, correct?
Right.
That's what I said. That's how I
Just the abstentions goes with the majority. At this point, the majority is 2 yeses. Oh, because there would be 2 yeses, 2 no's, and 2
There would be 2
abstentions.
yeses, 2 no's, 2
Equally matched
abstentions.
at all 3.
That's why I
The mayor would have to
clarified.
break the vote.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm a trustee for all seven. Due to the fact that the abstentions will go with the majority, which is a yes, I will abstain.
Yes.
So you got 3 abstaining.
Motion carries.
Them are all yes votes, Mr. Mayor.
So,
Them are all yes votes.
So goes with the majority.
okay,
The motion passes.
so the motion passes with all 5 trustees voting to lay off
Officer of law.
Sauk Village.
Mr. Mayor, now I make a motion that we approve a $75,000 a year salary for Robert Fox, your appointment.
Got a motion? Second.
Second.
Comments?
Once again, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to vote no because the chief salary should be at least 90 to start off with. So my vote no means that he should get paid higher. It should be matched with all the other villages, municipalities, whether north or south. Together. That's because we keep it supporting, that's why.
Any other comment?
Just to clarify, if you could just make sure that we have that. I know that we were up against the timeline, the attorney had to go back to, Mr. Fox's attorney, and that's why we had this timeline. I just want to make it clear that this is an amount that members of this board thought that was manageable, and I know that that's not what, Mr. Fox requested, but I think it's about time that we pay people what we can, not what people want. Because when I walked into my job, I didn't even request a salary of $90,000. They gave me an offer, I chose to accept it. I didn't have to, and I did this heat. I think that should be clear, that we're not feeding into what he requests, we're feeding into the highest amount that we think that we can afford. But I would like to know, Memo, that conversation that is completed with him, and that we can give that information back to our attorney, so our attorney can go back to his attorney and make sure that we did give an offer. Whether he chose to accept it or not is on him.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, the village manager, along with the finance director, have researched and studied and sat with other financial experts in the searching of the salary for the police chief. And they have come up with resolutions for this problem. And they state for a fact that they believe that the cuts that they provide or that they can implement will bring forth a salary for the police chief. I don't know why this board just don't want to take that position and follow the instructions of the people who they brought in to help run the village. They brought them in. They brought in Dietrich. They brought in Miss Turner. And now they don't want to follow their instructions. I got a problem with that one. But nevertheless, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Time. Call for a vote.
Let me run you.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion we direct the village manager to take a loan from the water fund to back pay Robert Fox based on a salary of $75,000 a year. That was a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second,
Second.
comments?
Mr.
I want to know how they're gonna pay that money back. If they don't have no money to put here, they don't have no money to put there, and they have money to pay him, how are they gonna put that money back into the water fund?
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Order.
Mr. Mayor, the loan is hopefully a short-term loan, due to the fact that we know the courts are going to instruct, or already have started to instruct us to back pay the position that you filled. So the water fund is the only one that has revenue at this time that we can use to pay. We already know that there's no other money budgeted, nor do we have any additional funds that we can use to pay. Again, we've already challenged the appointment to go back and try to find ways to bring money back. So the police department will be responsible for paying back the water fund. Once the overtime is cut, once the additional revenue that hopefully we're going to see is there. And again, once that is available, the residents will find that the money will be paid back to the water fund, and the officers that were voted to, or the police personnel that was voted to be removed to pay for this individual, hopefully we'll see them back on the streets again. However, there has been nothing tangible to this village board to show us where the money's coming from and how we're going to pay.
Any other comments?
No.
Burgess.
Yes.
Chavez.
He says we gotta pay him, yes?
Hicks.
Yes.
Myers. Williams. No.
Okay, motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.